Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Wednesday, January 1st, 2025, so happy new year. And today we're going to talk about ramping up for the new season, making New Year's resolutions, and arguably the most important kind of health, and farming in this economy. Yeah, that too. So let's do it. All right. Well, welcome to 2025, you all. I have a lot of affection for New Year's Day because the collective hangovers usually means people are pretty chill. So that's good. Hopefully you made some good resolutions for the year. As you will recall, I made my resolutions back in like November or October or something, as I normally do, to make sure to exercise all winter. And I think so far so good. I also have a few lifelong resolutions that come up every year that I try to be mindful of and focus on. These are admittedly not very farmy, but they will ultimately lead to hopefully a better farm life. So anyway, one is simply being more thoughtful about the needs of other people in my life. I will admit wholeheartedly that I am not a naturally thoughtful person. It's weird, but I've come to accept that that is a reality for me. Being more thoughtful is something I have had to embark on consciously and develop it. But I've gotten a lot better at it, I think, or at least I hope so. It's important to me that I have the people in my life know I care about them. So I've worked on it and continue to work on it. I also, now that we have kids, try to just have present moments with them every day. I feel like that term being present has become somewhat of a cliche or a bit overused, but it's a term I love for its accuracy. I love terms that you know exactly what they mean when you hear them. And to me, that being present is one of those. This week, being present has been playing soccer in our wash pack shed with my youngest and not trying to really teach him anything, just playing with my kid, just enjoying it, breathing it in, cataloging it, etching it into my memory. Or it's been listening to our oldest rant about Legos and just truly listening to him, watching him talk, engaging with it. So not resolutions exactly, because I resolved a long time ago to do those things as much as possible, but certainly things that the new year reminds me to keep working on. I'm sure that I have or will at some point bring up the Harvard Adult Development Studies, which followed, quote, 2 groups of men over the last 80 years to identify the psychosocial predictors of healthy aging, end quote. One of the findings that really stuck out is just the importance of good relationships throughout one's life. People with strong, high-quality social relationships lived longer, had fewer health issues, and experienced less mental decline. One of the famous findings from that study is that effectively loneliness kills. Director Robert Waldinger said that in his TED Talk he did on the subject back in like 2016, and I'll link that for you if you'd like to watch it. Loneliness, he says, is toxic, and they can see that in the data that people who were identified as lonely did not live as long and had more health issues. A little nerdiness note here. It is actually really quite rare to see a study that has gone on this long because research money dries up or not enough people have interest in it to keep it going, etc. You'll remember a few months back, I cited a study in Colorado that examined the ecology of an untouched mountain prairie for 30 years or something, and how rare that was. Well, even though it's not a perfect or entirely representative study, being 100% white dudes, a third of whom graduated from a little school called Harvard, though now it does include wives and children. This study is nearly 80 years old now, with thousands of participants and multiple generations of people and a few different directors, which is frankly unreal. That's really uncommon. But anyway, I think about this study a lot and this idea of the importance of relationships. I think about how the management and development of relationships is important to our health as what we eat or what we drink or if we exercise. I think about how people are reporting higher levels of loneliness than ever right now, largely and somewhat ironically due to things like social networks, and how that may show up in our healthcare systems in like 20, 30, or 40 years. New Year's resolutions are so often all about doing something healthy like exercise, which the same study says is also important, or giving up something like alcohol, which again, the study confirms that, but perhaps added to that list should be developing better relationships with your family, your friends, your community, all of that to say that if you haven't got a resolution for this year, consider picking up relationship building. Yeah. Now, I don't have the answers for what that looks like exactly, but it could be as easy as, signing off of Facebook. And when you wonder what a friend or family member is up to, shoot them a text or give them a call or ask them out for coffee Or maybe it's joining a local chess club or bowling club or fishing club, adult soccer league, or just coaching a sports team. It's a great way to be involved with the community and build relationships with people. And also maybe just, enjoy your kids or your family members ranting about Legos. It might mean something to them that you care, and it might create a memory that you can cherish forever, or at least until 2026. Anyway, any other great resolutions out there? Any farmy ones? Otherwise, when we come back, we'll get a question from a Patreon member. BRB. Today's episode of Growers Daily is brought to you by Harnwah Greenhouses. Harnwah Greenhouses has pioneered controlled environment agriculture since 1965, partnering with market gardeners and farmers across North America to deliver turnkey greenhouse solutions. Their unwavering mission is to support growers' success through innovation and expertise in design, manufacturing, and installation. Harnwah Greenhouses are engineered to withstand high wind and snow loads, providing optimal brightness, increased yields, rapid ROI, and long-lasting durability. With over 20,000 projects completed, they are more than a manufacturer. They are a trusted partner. Their structures foster sustainable, energy-efficient ecosystems that drive profitable, resilient agriculture. In 2025, Harnwah is introducing a new low-tech, high-tunnel model starting at just $2 per square foot, offering open field growers an accessible entry into controlled environment agriculture. Harnwah Greenhouses, leading the way in turnkey solutions for local growers. Learn more at harnwah.com. That's HARNOIS.com. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener, are enjoying this content, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/notillgrowers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to those Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes from Patreon member Orlando Garner, who writes, quote, "Hello, Jesse. I have sales/market related question today. Most of the content I followed and the books I buy are from the US or Canada, and they transport the impression that markets for market growers are there in abundance and prices are at, for us in Europe, incredibly high levels. Is this still the reality? In Europe, organic is under pressure from two sides. The large industrial organic growers who use the same methods as the agricultural factories, just following organic rules and inflation. Currently, organic produce in supermarkets is huge, but only 5 to 10% more expensive than conventional produce, while the margin for supermarkets is higher with organic produce. That means they pay less to organic producers than to conventional ones. In France, a little less than 100,000 hectares of organic farms have given up or have changed back to conventional because prices are too low. At the same time, consumers tend to double check each dime before spending it, and organic produce shows a decreasing market share. Of course, organic is not identical to what you are teaching, but how many consumers really are able to recognize the difference in taste, which is often there, but they simply don't care that much. As the middle class is shrinking in Europe, the potential customers for CSA and farmers markets are too, and the ones who remain also want to save money. Is this very different in the US? How do you see the future? Thank you, Stefan. End quote. Okay, great question, Stefan, and thank you. For the listener, the details Stefan provided are pretty much accurate as far as I can tell. There is a huge movement of growers deconverting from organic at about 50,000 hectares in 2023, and the trend was expected to continue in 2024, though organic producers still went up 2% that year, as the director of Agence Bio told Le Monde, which is like the French New York Times, quote, "We've lost field crop producers, but we've gained market gardeners," end quote. However, the trend of larger scale growers moving away from organic could deteriorate further in 2024. There is indeed a shrinking middle class across Europe as it is in the US. Now, to the amount that organic produce fetches at market, at the supermarket at least, that could be regional because prices still, at least from what I can tell in the literature that's in English, are generally higher than just 10% more in France. But again, regional pricing exists here as it does everywhere. So anyway, I will do my best here to offer some American insight from someone who is notably not an economist, but has seen the market change and then change again here in the States. First, organic produce only being 5 or 10% more than conventional produce is a significant difference from the US, where organic produce costs almost double what conventional produce costs, depending on what it is and where you are. Also, it should be said that some of the biggest names in the market gardening are selling in very high-end markets with wealthier clientele. Not all of them, but many, which means that people are matching their numbers better than they maybe realize they are, because In some of those markets, you can charge almost triple what you can in smaller markets. That said, prices can change as wallets tighten, which they largely have been since the pandemic and inflation. Inflation has also been slightly harder on the EU than in America, I believe because of the energy crisis, but again, not an economist. Customers are going to often start cutting back their spending, so that may mean dropping organic produce for conventional produce to save money on the grocery bill every month, or it may mean skipping the CSA this year to just get exactly what they are going to use at the farmer's market or the grocery store. What that means for us as small-scale growers, well, it's complicated because that doesn't mean we can make less money for what we produce because it still costs the same to produce it. So in a case where customers are tightening their food budgets, we have to do one or all of the following. We have to find the niches we can fulfill that conventional can't really. We have to diversify our businesses either by teaming up with other farms or potentially starting cooperatives or whatever, or offering land on our farm to other growers who could supply something to our market table that we can't. We have to develop relationships and also add value to our produce that conventional growers can't. I mean, emphasis on relationships there, kind of a theme today. And we can make buying from us easier through online stores and home delivery where possible, and etc. And we have to make our systems as efficient as possible. That's also important. Small business ownership is always going to be complicated by the fluctuations in the market. It's just the frustrating nature of it. The other day, when we were on our drive to the beach, we stopped at one of those shopping centers full of retail stores and restaurants to get a bite to eat and stretch our legs. My oldest and I took a walk and went into a store where they were selling sports gear. You know this type of store if you're a millennial or older. And he was just absolutely in awe of walls of soccer balls and gear. And I was like, yeah, there used to be stores like this in every single town. There used to be CD shops, video stores, and Radio Shacks. People banked their savings on those businesses, and then poof, almost overnight, the market shifted and those places went out of business or went online. What keeps any business thriving is their ability to adapt and satisfy demands to add something to the customer that others cannot. And small businesses are most susceptible because we are often catering to the market and not creating it like really large businesses are. Maybe organic isn't as popular or as desired as much as it used to be in the French market, but what do you think is desired? What is it that the customer really wants? For market gardening, we are a business of niche products. A lot of the higher end produce, the microgreens, the $12 a pound salad mix, the $3 bunch of radishes, is kind of what goes first when people start tightening their wallets. But that isn't intended to be pessimistic about this industry or about small business ownership in general, though I think it is often oversold. But that's for another day. I still think farming is a reasonable business because people don't have to buy a record or a soccer ball, but they do have to eat. I still think farming is important, as we saw in the pandemic, at offering local food options when the grocery stores fail. However, I think as farmers and business owners, we have to create businesses that are resilient in lean times, which will look different for everyone. On the point about organic, that all depends on your market, whether that certification is worth it. If you're only getting 10% more, well, that may be worth it if you're selling large quantities and not wasting much and it's making you a profit. But if the customers don't care if you're organic, like restaurants often don't, then maybe you don't need that extra expense and work of certification. As for the part of your question, Stefan, about what I see the future as, well, the most optimistic outlook is that economic fluctuations are going to happen. They always have and they always will. Their duration and effect is impossible to guess, but their existence is almost certain. Therefore, we have to make our farm businesses as resilient as our farm practices. What that looks like will be different in every context, but having a plan for what you would do if the bottom dropped out of your market is a good idea for any small business, organic farms included. Run a hypothetical, a simulation. That answers the question of what would I do if no one could afford my food all of a sudden? What would happen? Like, how would I deal with that? And then what can I do now to get ahead of that idea or prepare for it? And that way, if everything is kosher for the next 50 years, like, you're set. And if something goes wrong, you're also set. Anyway, I'm not sure if I totally addressed your questions there, Stefan, but it was an interesting challenge. And I look forward to hearing what others have to say about it. Thanks for the support, and obviously keep us updated on how things are going over there. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about ramping up for the season. Be right back. Today's episode of Growers Daily is brought to you by Peaceful Heritage Nursery. If you're looking for hardy and resilient fruit trees, berry plants, or pawpaw trees, then check out Peaceful Heritage Nursery. Peaceful Heritage Nursery LLC is a mail-order nursery shipping premium quality fruit trees and berry plants across the USA. They specialize in resilient, non-GMO plant genetics for small growers. Their diverse selection includes berries, cold-hardy figs, passion fruit, gumi, mulberry, and much more. They're famous for their diverse selection of premium quality grafted pawpaw trees. 5-star Google ratings and customer testimonials attest to their commitment to excellence in quality and service. Find them at peacefulheritage.com and join their mailing list. Once again, find them at peacefulheritage.com. Use the promo code NOTILL, all caps, one word, for 10% off your first order. All right, back to the show. So this has been a fun week on the farm. This week after Christmas, it's basically always the first week of the growing season for me as I get seeds ordered, get the garden plan finalized, and then get the greenhouse ready for onions. The seeds should start rolling in the next few weeks, and onions are always my first starts. That's why I said onions and shallots, that is. This year I'm growing red onions, white onions, candy, and shallots, and all of them really need as long as a season as you can get. But I'm not going to talk about onion production here today. I did that whole video about that onion production. I think that was last year, maybe the year before. At this point, it all just kind of blends together. Anyway, I'll link that for you in the show notes. That will be the first thing I start in 2025, the onions, followed by sowing our first round of carrots in the tunnel next week as well. Napoli or Mokum are my go-to early carrot varieties for the flavor and the speed of them. Coming out of the winter, the January sown tunnel carrots and the March sown field carrots are the sweetest carrots I can get until the fall. So one thing I'd like to try this year that I've never really done in the past is grow more of them in the spring as a sort of storage crop to sell through July and August to our retail outlets, just because I like that sweetness. Anyway, I love this time of year, the ramp-up season. But in years past, a big lesson I've learned is that you cannot slouch in the build up to the growing season. There's no messing about. I've discovered, often the hard way, that the harder I work now, the less stressful the season will be later. The more I take my time to organize and clean and prepare, the less stuff I will be stepping over in March and losing to the grass in April than discovering with my mower in May. And the windows are small to really get a lot of work done in the winter. Sunlight, albeit slowly returning, is basically non-existent compared to the summer. So the days are short, the temperature fluctuations make some weeks productive and other weeks impossible to do anything outdoors. For instance, this week is hoodie weather, which is an easier description than saying the Fahrenheit and Celsius every time. And next week will be, below freezing, basically every day. And needless to say, when stuff is frozen to the ground or the soil mix is a block of ice, it's just a lot harder to get anything done. So taking advantage of this time, especially hoodie weather, is just critical to having a fun, enjoyable growing season. Procrastination equals pressurization. You never know when something is going to go wrong in the middle of the season, and things just explode because you didn't do that thing that you should have done when you had the time to do it or when it came up. And I know I'm using the word you there, but I'm specifically talking to Farmer Jesse, reminding him that when he puts projects off, he pressurizes his life and his business, which may sometimes, maybe even often, work itself out. But those times when it explodes, it's not great. So anyway, I'm enjoying working hard now so that hopefully the season will go smoothly and be fun and enjoyable, and I'll have a lot of good stuff to share with you all throughout. As we say in soccer and sports, cry and practice so you can laugh in the game. And not that the off season is practice exactly, but it is sort of, right? Preparation. Practice is preparation. Also, I can't be expected to not make a soccer reference, at least at some point, or technically this episode would be a fail. I think it's in the rule book. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music and the team at Notill Growers. Pick up a copy of the Living Soil Handbook or the Seed Farmer at notillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you just sign up in the month of January, you get a shout out in the show. So big shout outs today to Nick, Cheryl B, Faith, gotta have faith. We learned that from George Michael. And Lindsayana Jones, which is a great name. I don't think that's probably your real name, but if it is your real name, that's solid. Very solid. And this particular novel is about a group who start a gym, and where every surface and every piece of equipment, from the bikes to the weights, can collect the energy used to generate power for a small town in South Carolina. The name of the gym, I think, is Rotosynthesis. Yep. It's a great story. Very hopeful. Anyway, Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for watching and or listening. We'll see you tomorrow.